I could describe everything with one single word.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down a really big and maybe a little under the radar shift in American international trade policy. It's a new doctrine that is fundamentally reshaping how the U.S. does business with the rest of the world. Okay, so let's just dive right in. You look at these headlines, and on the surface, they seem totally random, right? A tech deal in Asia, a massive construction project in the Midwest, and some really complex diplomacy over in the Middle East. But what if I told you they're all just different pieces of the same puzzle? Well, the connecting thread here is a single, really powerful strategic idea that's being called trade for energy. You know, it seems to be a direct reaction to decades of globalization. The goal of trade is shifting away from just, selling stuff to something much more strategic, using American energy exports to really anchor its economic and geopolitical power. So, what does this doctrine actually look like in practice? Let's take a look at the blueprint. Two recent, very high-profile agreements, one with Japan and one with Taiwan, give us a super clear picture of the template that's being used. Now, when you put these two deals side by side, it is just wow. The architecture is identical. I mean, look at the core parts. The U.S. offers this baseline 15% tariff rate, and in exchange, the partner country has to slash its own tariffs and, this is the really crucial part, make a massive investment pledge right back into the U.S. economy. Japan's commitment is just staggering. We're talking about over $500 billion. To give you some perspective, that single pledge is bigger than the entire annual economy of a country like Sweden.
We are following some breaking news as it relates to the Trump presidency. I want to transition your screen to give you a live look at the White House as we're learning a massive $550 billion trade deal has been reached with Japan.
And the United States and Taiwan have reached a sweeping $500 billion semiconductor agreement aimed at bringing advanced chip manufacturing back to American soil.
Commerce Department says the deal includes $250 billion in direct investment from Taiwanese tech firms in semiconductors, energy, as well as artificial intelligence.
It also includes $250 billion in credit guarantees from Taiwan to expand the U.S. chip supply chain.
Okay, so how's all this tie back to energy? Because, yeah, the investments are huge, but the critical point is what the U.S. demands in return. And it's more than just jobs and factories. This is where the energy part of trade for energy really comes into play.
That's right, Trump announcing the first phase of a sweeping new trade deal with Japan, and then he also addressed diplomatic efforts over China, Iran, and the Russia-Ukraine war.
President Trump has announced 3 new projects with Japan, the first stage of a trade deal worth more than $500 billion. The president declaring the agreement officially underway yesterday. He says Japan is moving forward with major investments in the United States worth a total of $36 billion. Among the first projects, a natural gas power facility in Ohio. That's according to Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who says it will be capable of generating 9.2 gigawatts of electricity. Another project is aimed at expanding crude oil exports from the Gulf of America near Texas. Lutnick estimates the facility will export between $20 and $30 billion worth of crude oil annually.
Washington and Taipei have finalized a trade deal to cut tariffs and to boost market access for U.S. products in Asia. Goods from Taiwan will now face a 15% tariff, with some exceptions for tech and pharmaceuticals. Taiwan is pledging to buy $44 billion of U.S. energy and further open its markets.
Now, this strategy isn't just for traditional allies. The same logic is being used in much more complicated geopolitical situations, which really shows you how flexible this doctrine is. Let's take a look at the recent U.S. policy shift in Syria. Right after the fall of the Assad regime, the U.S. moved incredibly fast. In just about a year, it ended its embargo, worked to get the tough Caesar Act sanctions repealed. Those were the ones designed to isolate Assad's economy. And then it stepped in to mediate a deal to put Syria's main oil and gas fields back under central government control. So you see what happened there? It's not a formal trade agreement like with Japan or Taiwan, but the strategic goal is exactly the same. By getting rid of sanctions and getting involved in the local politics, the U.S. cleared the runway to, as the source material for this explainer puts it, position American energy companies to lead the reconstruction and become the key energy supplier for that whole region.
Welcome back. Syrian officials are here at the World Government Summit looking for partners to help rebuild the war-torn economy. Dana Gas has already agreed to redevelop Syria's energy sector. The Middle East's largest private gas company signed that deal back in November, immediately almost after Syria's president went to the White House to seek sanctions relief. It was the first energy developer to reach such an agreement, which all is.
So after laying all this out, from Taipei all the way to Damascus, what are the big takeaways here? What does this all really mean for the future of how the world does business? Well, the most important point is that this looks like a repeatable three-step template for pretty much all major US trade talks from now on. It's a clear playbook. Offer better tariffs, get them to invest in the US, and then lock in long-term energy sales. That's the new price of admission if you want a good trade deal with the United States. And here's why this matters, even if you're not a diplomat. This doctrine is basically creating guaranteed customers for American oil and gas. For US energy companies, it provides a level of demand certainty that's almost unheard of in the crazy up and down commodity markets, because it's being driven by a government mandate, not just supply and demand.